Hey GraphQL Galaxy, in this lightning talk I want to take you through what it took to set up GraphQL subscriptions for an existing Drupal-based products. I'm Alexander Varwijk, or King Dutch on places like Twitter and GitHub, and I'm the lead front-end engineer and GraphQL initiative lead at OpenSocial. OpenSocial is a community engagement platform that helps organizations connect with their communities online and grow them in the process. OpenSocial is built on top of the Drupal content management framework. To allow quicker communication between members on our platforms, we wanted to use GraphQL to add a real-time chat as new feature to our existing products. The goal was for the chat to integrate with our existing member and group structure. To build our chats, we chose Rescript and React, and of course GraphQL to let our server and client communicate. On the client side, we chose the excellent Urkel GraphQL client. In PHP, there are a few libraries that can help you with GraphQL. The best choice, in my opinion, and the one used in Drupal, is the GraphQL PHP library. This is a PHP port of the JavaScript reference implementation. I'm a big fan of the library structure. It makes porting new GraphQL features to PHP very easy. For example, one of my first contributions was implementing interfaces extending other interfaces. To achieve this, I could almost copy and paste the JavaScript tests and implementation word for word, just replacing a bit of the syntax. Drupal itself works with modules that allow you to create a site by bundling together functionality. The Drupal community has provided an excellent Drupal module that utilizes GraphQL PHP and lets developers easily expose Drupal's data storage as a GraphQL API. As you would expect, queries and mutations work out of the box. The GraphQL PHP library also supports subscriptions, and the Drupal GraphQL module does not impose any limitations on defining subscriptions in your schema or resolving them. However, when trying to make GraphQL subscriptions in a framework such as Drupal, we run into some of its limitations. Drupal, like other popular PHP content management systems such as WordPress, handle individual requests through a web server like Apache or Nginx. This means that once a response to a request is generated, the connection is closed and the memory is cleared for the next request. This short-lived model doesn't work for subscriptions, which require a persistent connection and the ability to send data to the client without the client requesting it. This means we need an additional service to sit between our client and our web server to handle these persistent connections. We can write these servers in many different languages, such as JavaScript, Rescript, OCaml, Rust, or your other favorite language. However, since I was working with an existing team and product, it was important to look at the skills that were already present in our organization. I had to make sure that whatever was built would also be maintainable by others, or I would risk having to maintain it all by myself. With this in mind, since OpenSocial's backend developers are most familiar with PHP, we decided to use this for our subscription service too. This does mean that we need some new tools. We now need something that can create a long-running PHP process and perform tasks asynchronously. There are a few libraries out there already that can help us with this. React PHP and AMP are both capable libraries that let you write asynchronous code. Their biggest difference is what syntax they use for their promises. Fun facts: the PHP extension for an event loop that both React PHP and AMP use actually predates Node.js. More recently, React PHP and AMP have bundled their forces to build Revolt, which will make use of fibers, a feature that has been introduced in PHP 8.1. At OpenSocial, we settled on React PHP after trying both it and AMP. The next step was to add something that could accept our WebSocket connections. Here too, the PHP community was ahead of us by providing us with Regit, a WebSocket server for React PHP. Finally, we needed to make sure that GraphQL clients who created a WebSocket connection could actually speak in GraphQL subscriptions. This requires some custom work. The GraphQL WebSocket library, which is the standard used by the major JavaScript clients, provided a very clearly written protocol. We were able to implement this in a new package, which is published on GitHub and Composer. So let's look at what we've built so far. We already have a way to do queries and mutations, which can be sent to our web server directly. We now also have something that can accept GraphQL subscriptions, though this service does not yet respond to new data arriving on the web server. Unfortunately, Drupal doesn't yet support running in an asynchronous environment such as React PHP. Additionally, accessing the Drupal database directly isn't possible because we'd be missing all of our access handling logic. So we need a way for our web server to let our subscription service know that there's new data available. For this, we can introduce a message queue. We chose RabbitMQ because there was an easy-to-use library available for React PHP called Bunny. Plugging this last piece in, we now have a system that can accept GraphQL subscriptions from our chat client. When a user sends a new chat message, the client will perform a GraphQL mutation, which puts a message on the RabbitMQ queue, notifying the subscription server of new data. The subscription server uses that message to execute a GraphQL query for the client, based on the subscriptions stored in memory. It then translates the result of this query into the shape of the original subscription and sends it off to the client delivering the chat message. That's how we build a service serving GraphQL subscriptions using PHP and Drupal.